Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. I'm Malcolm Reed. Today I got some big Porterhouse steaks. We're gonna get these on the drum smoker today. Slow them down a little bit, get some good flavor in them. Finish them off with a little bacon tallow for a drizzle and for a bacon tallow butter. These are gonna be delicious. Let's get to cooking, y'all. So check it out. I've got two big Porterhouse steaks today. Now what makes it a Porterhouse? It's a T-bone steak. We got a strip on one side and we got a nice chunk of that filet on the opposite side. Now I swung through Kroger this morning and got my butcher Steve to cut these for me. I told him I wanted some nice thick ones. That's exactly what we have. Now, I'm not doing a whole lot of trimming to these big monsters. So what we're gonna do first is add a little bit of binder to the outside. And for that, I'm using some of this W sauce. It's kind of a kicked up Worcestershire. Makes a nice little flavor on the outside. It's gonna give us some color, but it's gonna help these seasonings stick as well. Then I'm gonna use my hands with the glove, and I'm just gonna kind of gently rub it into the meat. I want it to work down in it a little bit, kind of stain that outside. Make sure you rub it on the edges too. We're gonna flip them over, do the same thing to the backside. Not really trying to saturate them or marinate them in the W sauce. It's really just a binder for the outside that has some really good flavor to it. And if you don't have the W sauce, just hit it with some regular Worcestershire. Now we're ready for our first season. I've got my buddy Swine prime beef rub. This one's got some flavor to it. It's got that umami, that mushroom flavor. Really goes great with beef. Brings out a little heat, but it's got the salt, it's got the pepper, it's got all those flavors you want in a good steak. We'll hit it with a good dose of that prime beef rub. Pat it in a little bit. Flip them over, do the exact same thing. And I didn't forget those edges either. I'm gonna go ahead and stand it up. Get a little bit of it on the sides. So the last thing I'm gonna put on these Porterhouse steaks is my steak rub. Now it's got the coarse grains in it. This gives it a little crunch, a little texture. And I like the difference in the grind to go on the steak. It gives me that kind of little bit of steak bark on the outside. Especially when you're cooking them low and slow, it's gonna make a nice crust. Let some of those coarse seasonings just kind of blend in to the outside of the steak. We're gonna flip them over and do the exact same thing. So we got the steak seasonings. I'm just gonna let them hang out here on the cutting board for a little bit. They need about 20 minutes before they hit the grill. It's gonna be the perfect time for me to fire up that drum. So I'm starting off with some broil oak lump charcoal in my fire basket for the drum. Throw a couple tumbleweeds to one side, get those fired up, and then place the basket down in the drum. I kind of orient it to where it's close to one of the intake vents. That's gonna let air flow through. It's gonna make that drum like a big chimney. It's gonna get that fire basket good and hot. We're gonna be running at about 275 today. So as I get a good bed of coals going, I don't want it all lit. I just want a good section of it good and hot. We'll put the cooking grate on, put the lid on the drum, and then adjust the vent so it'll stabilize at about 275. That's where I want them for the first part of this cook. So before we put these Porterhouse steaks on the drum, I'm gonna go ahead and put a meat probe in them so I can watch the internal temperature. I've just got one of my dot meat probes here, and I'm gonna kind of get it midways. I know how far it's gotta go in. So we'll just stick it right about center mass of the side of that steak and then go right into where my fingers were. That way we know that probe's in the middle. The drum's sitting about 275. It's right where I want it. We're gonna put these Porterhouse steaks on the cooking grate. Just gonna set them down beside each other here. We've got our probe in. Now we're ready for the lid. Now all we gotta do is watch the thermometer. I'm gonna flip them about halfway. So when they get to about 95, 100 degrees internal, we'll give each steak a flip, keep cooking it till it's 118. All right, we're about 100 degrees internal. These Porterhouse steaks have been on for about 20 minutes. I wanna go ahead and give them a little flip right now so we can get them cooking on both sides. We're just gonna turn them, got some nice crust action going. After we flip them, we're gonna put the lid right back on. When they get up to about 118, 120, that's when I'm gonna take the lid off, start basting them with that bacon tallow, that good fat dripping down. It's gonna give us some flame action. All right, it took about 10 minutes to get these steaks up to the 118 mark. So I'm gonna flip them back over. This is where we're gonna start first with these Porterhouse steaks. So now I've got some of this bacon tallow. It's room temperature, so it's still liquid. I'm just gonna start basting it right over the top of these steaks. And once you hit it with that bacon tallow, you talk about smell. It smells amazing. Bacon's dripping on the fire down below. Now that we've let some air in that drum, you can see it's got some flames coming up. It's gonna kiss the bottom of these Porterhouse steaks. Give us a little bit of sear action. It's all from that rendered bacon just dripping down on them off the Porterhouses. You know it's gonna have some good flavor. I'm just gonna flip them over. Do the same thing to this backside. It's gonna get a color on them. Looking fantastic. And that's what I wanna see. But you don't wanna overcook them. We're still setting about 125 internal. When they get to about 128, I want them off the grill. All right, you can hear we've hit 128 degrees internal. I'm calling these dudes done. We got that nice sear action on both sides, kind of charted up just a little bit. Now all they gotta do is rest. Better work quick because this is hot. So now we got the Porterhouse steaks off the pit. They need to rest a little bit before we cut into them. So I had some of that bacon tallow left over. I mixed it with half a stick of butter, seasoned it with some of that prime beef and a little steak rub, stuck it in the refrigerator so it get a little bit firm. What I'm gonna do is just take a spoon of it and dip it right on these steaks while they're rested. Let the heat from them start melting it. That's gonna amp up those flavors, make those doctors real happy with all that good stuff on top. Ooh, and I'm just moving that bacon tallow butter all over the top. Y'all know that bacon tallow is just fancy for bacon fat. It's just the drippings when I cook some bacon in the oven. But this is gonna taste fantastic, I promise you. Let's see. Oh. That is fancy. So I can't take it no more, y'all. These steaks have sat here for about 7 minutes. That BTB's done melted all over the top of it. So let's get this meat off the bone. I'm gonna start with that filet side. Just kind of work around, go in and find that center bone. Then we're gonna start up here with the strip side and just follow the bone. It'll curve and let you know where it's at. Y'all know I'm gonna work on that bone, so I ain't through with it. Just cut that strip up into bites. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna get the filet, do the same. Oh, it's soft like butter. 2 steaks in 1, Jack. I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but look at that filet. That is beautiful. I got to try me a bite of it. I know it's tender. I mean, it just comes right apart. Oh, man. Rich. Got a little bit of that W sauce flavor. The beef rub, the steak rub. Giving it some pop. Finishing it off with that bacon tallow butter. I'm gonna sop up that board on that one. Get off in the middle of this strip side. Maybe not just as tender because it's a strip, but it's got so much more flavor. It's got a little trace of fat right around the edge. It kind of charred up. Now, I know you can cook good porterhouse just on a charcoal grill, but putting it on that drum, letting it get some distance between the coals and the grate produces so much more flavor on it. You get the smokiness, you get that charcoal flavor from it dripping down on it, but the flavor in the cook is phenomenal. I'm going back into this filet side. Hey y'all, you gotta give this drum porterhouse a try, I'm telling you. Bacon tallow drizzled over the top of it, slowing that cook down, keeping it 275 the whole time, and then pulling the lid off, letting those flames come up and kiss the bottom. Gives you a ton of flavor. I'm telling y'all, this is one fire steak. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today at HowToBBQRight. If y'all like what we're doing, subscribe to that channel. You know you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Michelle and I are gonna finish this steak, and then we're gonna talk about it on our weekly podcast this week, all the other delicious stuff we're doing. We'll see y'all next time. You don't need no potato. You don't need no other side dishes. It's a big old hunk of meat.